The arrival, the stars stretched like silver rivers across the black sky. A small human ship, old and damaged, broke through the clouds of an unknown world. Inside the ship was Captain Eric, the last of his crew. The others had fallen long ago, lost to sickness, hunger, or the emptiness of space. Now he was alone, tired, but still alive. The ship shook as it entered the strange atmosphere. Eric held the controls with steady hands, though his heart raced. He had no choice. The engines were failing, the oxygen low, and the scanner showed only one planet close enough to land. He whispered to himself, "If this world is not safe, then it will be my grave." The ship landed with a violent crash, sliding over red soil. Smoke filled the air. Sparks danced on broken wires. Eric coughed, pushed the door open, and stepped into a world unlike any he had seen before. The ground glowed faintly as if the soil itself had energy. Strange plants rose like tall glass towers, their leaves moving though no wind touched them. The sky was painted with two suns, one golden, one pale white, and in the distance, mountains floated in the air like islands held by invisible strings. Eric stood in silence, his helmet reflecting the alien light. This was no ordinary world. It felt alive. Every sound, every shadow seemed to watch him. He could feel it in his bones. He was not welcome, yet he was expected. He began to explore, walking carefully across the glowing ground. His boots left no footprints, as if the soil swallowed every step. The air was strange but breathable, thick with a sweet taste that burned his lungs. He scanned the area with his broken device, but the screen flickered and died. Technology had no power here. It was just him and the unknown. Hours passed as he searched for food and water. He found streams that shone like liquid light, but when he touched the surface, it rippled like glass. He pulled his hand away quickly, unsure if it was poison or life. Then he heard it, a voice, not spoken aloud but inside his mind. It was soft, whispering, impossible to understand, yet calling him forward. Eric froze, his heart beating fast. He looked around but saw nothing. The voice grew stronger, like many whispers layered together. He gripped his blaster but felt it was useless. What weapon could fight a sound in his head? He walked toward the source of the whisper, through glowing forests where every branch bent toward him, through fields where the ground pulsed like a beating heart. The voice guided him deeper and deeper, until he reached a clearing. There, hidden in the shadows, eyes watched him, dozens of them, glowing like stars. Tall figures stepped out, their skin smooth and shining like crystal. They moved with grace, almost floating. They were not human, not even close, yet their faces carried something familiar: curiosity, hunger, and fear. Eric raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. One of the figures moved closer, its eyes locked onto him, unblinking. Then it spoke, not with a mouth, but with the same voice that had whispered in his mind, "The human has come." It said, "The prophecy is real." Eric felt his blood run cold. How could they know him? How could they be waiting? He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. The alien's hand reached out, touching his chest. A wave of heat surged through him. Visions filled his mind, of fire, of children, of war. He gasped and fell to his knees. The alien stood over him in silence. They did not strike. They did not harm him. Instead, they surrounded him, circling like hunters who had finally trapped their prey. The leader raised its glowing hand to the sky, and the two suns dimmed as if the world itself listened. "The human will change us," the leader declared. "The blood of stars runs in him." Eric could not understand their words, but he knew one thing: he was no longer just a visitor. He was a prisoner of fate, and the eyes of an entire world were now fixed on him. The night fell quickly, swallowing the twin suns. The glowing plants lit the ground like lanterns. The aliens guided Eric deeper into their lands. He tried to resist, but their power was greater. Each step he took, the whisper in his mind grew stronger. He knew he was walking towards something he could not escape. At the edge of the alien city, carved into cliffs of shining stone. Eric saw thousands more eyes watching, a whole generation waiting in silence. Some bowed their heads as if in worship, others hissed with jealousy and rage. The air trembled with their emotions. Eric realized then, he was not just an outsider, he was a key, a piece of something greater. And whatever destiny this world had written for him, it had only just begun. Asterisk, the first contact. The alien city was alive with a light that came not from fire, nor from stone. It pulsed like veins under skin, glowing with colors Eric had never seen on Earth. The walls of the city shimmered as if they were breathing. The ground vibrated gently, matching the beat of his heart, or perhaps forcing his heart to match its rhythm. Eric was surrounded, but not attacked. The crystal-skinned figures walked beside him in silence, their eyes glowing like twin stars. They did not speak with mouths, but the whispers in his mind grew louder with every step. It was not one voice anymore, but many layered together, like a song with no end. Eric tried to resist, tried to push the voices away, but the sound clung to him like gravity. They brought him before a structure unlike anything he had ever known. A towering spire made of living crystal, twisting into the sky. The spire's surface moved slowly, like liquid glass, reflecting his face in 100 broken shapes. At its base stood figures taller than the rest, their forms sharper, their glow brighter. These were not simple beings, these were leaders. One stepped forward, its body glowing a deep shade of violet. When it spoke in his mind, the voice was clear, almost human. "You are the one," it said. "The wanderer of stars, the carrier of blood." Eric clenched his fists, his fear turning to anger. "I don't know what you want from me," he shouted into the silence. His voice echoed strangely, swallowed by the air, then returned softer, like the planet itself repeated his words. The violet figure tilted its head. "You will know soon," it replied, "but first you must see what has been waiting." The ground shifted beneath him, and the spire opened like a mouth. Inside was a chamber filled with light. Walls of liquid crystal curved inward, forming a circle. In the center stood younger figures, smaller than the others, their glow softer, their eyes brighter. They moved nervously, as if they were children seeing a myth come alive. Eric stepped closer, his heart racing. The younger aliens reached their hands toward him, but did not touch. They whispered in his mind, voices overlapping. "The prophecy is true," they said. "He is the human, the one we dreamed, the one who binds life." Eric stumbled back, shaking his head. "I am just a man," he said, his voice breaking. "Lost, alone, nothing special." But the whispers did not stop. They circled him, their eyes wide with awe. Some knelt before him. Others cried with strange glowing tears that fell and vanished into the floor. The violet leader raised its hand. "The younger generation believes," it declared. "They have seen the vision since birth. They know your seed carries power." Eric's blood ran cold at the words. His mind flashed back to the visions he had seen when the alien first touched him. Visions of fire, of children, of something growing inside bodies not human. He felt sick. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. But no answer came, only silence, only the weight of their stares. One of the younger aliens finally touched him. Its hand was warm, almost human. The moment it made contact, a shock passed through him, not pain, but a surge of memory that was not his own. He saw fields of dying aliens, their bodies fading, their cities collapsing. He saw their desperation, their fear, and in the middle of it all, a human face, his own. Eric gasped, pulling his hand away. He stumbled to the floor, shaking. "What have you done to me?" he whispered. The younger alien tilted its head, sadness in its glowing eyes. "Not us," it said softly. "The world has chosen you." The others repeated the words, the chamber filled with the chant. "The world has chosen. The world has chosen." The sound drilled into Eric's skull, drowning out his thoughts. He screamed, covering his ears. But the voices were inside, not outside. There was no escape. When the chant stopped, silence returned heavy as stone. The younger aliens stepped back, their eyes fixed on him. Some looked at him with hope, others with hunger. He could feel their emotions pressing against his mind like a tide. They wanted something from him, something no machine could give, and deep inside, Eric feared he already knew what it was. The violet leader stepped closer. "You see now why you cannot leave," it said. "You carry what both young and old need. Without you, the line will end. With you, it will be reborn." Eric shook his head. "I never asked for this," he said, his voice cracking. "I never wanted this." But his words carried no weight here. The prophecy had already taken root, and every eye in the chamber burned with the same truth. The first contact was not a meeting, it was a claim. And Eric realized with a shiver, he was no longer the explorer, he was the prize, the human seed both generations would fight to possess. The ancient ones, the city grew silent as night fell. The glowing plants dimmed, the younger aliens pulled back, their whispers fading. For a moment, Eric thought it was over, that maybe he had survived the strange meeting. But then the ground shook, not like before, not gentle. This was heavy, like something vast had woken beneath the earth. The younger aliens lowered their heads in fear, their bright eyes no longer glowing with excitement, but shadowed with dread. One of them whispered into his mind, "They are coming." Eric felt a cold weight in his chest. "Who is coming?" he asked, but no one answered. The crystal spire opened once again. From the darkness within came shapes far taller, broader, heavier. These were not like the younger ones. Their bodies were darker, cracked like old stone, yet glowing inside with a deep fire. Their movements were slower but carried power. When they stepped into the chamber, the ground itself bent under their weight. Eric's breath caught. There was no beauty in these figures, no innocence. They were ancient, older than the city, older than the stars above. Their faces carried no softness, only sharp edges carved by centuries of survival. And when they looked at him, it was not with wonder, but with hunger. They saw him not as prophecy, but as possession. One of the ancient ones raised its hand. The chamber fell into silence. Even the young froze. Its voice entered Eric's mind, but unlike the whispers of the young, this voice was heavy, each word pressed down like a mountain on his skull. "You are ours," it said. "You belong to the first blood." Eric shook his head, backing away. "I belong to no one," he said aloud, his voice breaking in the vast chamber. But the ancient ones only laughed, a sound like stone grinding against stone. The younger aliens stepped forward, their eyes flashing. "He is not yours," they cried in unison. "He is the seed of the new." The chamber filled with tension. The young stood trembling but defiant. The old stood unshaken, their presence crushing. 2 generations, 1 man, and a prophecy neither side would surrender. The leader of the ancients approached. Its body glowed with deep crimson light. Scars lined its chest like rivers of fire. It leaned close to Eric, its voice echoing inside his skull. "We waited for you before their birth. We carved this city when their kind was dust. It is our right, our claim." Eric tried to resist the pressure, but his knees buckled. The weight of its presence was unbearable. The younger aliens screamed in his mind, "Do not listen, do not trust." But their voices were drowned beneath the roar of the ancient. One vision struck him again, stronger than before. He saw ancient battles across burning skies. He saw the old ones crushing entire species, ruling the stars with fire. And then he saw them fall, their bodies breaking, their glow fading, their power slipping away, extinction creeping closer with every passing century. When the visions ended, Eric gasped for air. His body shook, his mind burned. The Ancient One stood over him, its eyes burning. "You will restore us," it said. "Through you, our blood will rise again." The younger aliens cried out, "No, he belongs to the new. He belongs to us." Their glow brightened, filling the chamber with blinding light. The Ancient Ones roared, their dark bodies glowing like fire under stone. The air shook, the ground split. The spire trembled. Eric was caught between them, one side pulling him with hope, the other with force. His mind filled with two truths. The young saw him as future. The old saw him as survival, and both would not stop until he was theirs. He fell to the floor, clutching his head. The whispers of the young and the thunder of the old collided inside his mind. He screamed, his voice lost in the storm of sound. And in that moment, the planet itself responded. The chamber walls pulsed, the ground throbbed like a heartbeat. A deep voice, older than both generations, rumbled through the city. The human has come. Balance must be kept. Every alien froze, young and old. Their glowing eyes turned upward in fear. Eric trembled. If this was the planet itself, then. Nothing here was in his control. He was not a visitor anymore, not a guest. He was the center of a war written long before his birth. The ancient ones stepped back, but their eyes never left him. The younger ones clung to hope. But their fear was clear, and Eric, standing weak in the middle, realized that survival was no longer about food or water. It was about choosing a side, and whichever side he chose, the other would become his enemy. The silence returned, thick as smoke. The ancients turned away, their massive forms fading into the dark. But before leaving, the Crimson Leader spoke once more into his mind. "We will return, human, and when we do, you will not refuse us." The chamber closed, leaving Eric with the younger ones, but the victory was hollow, for he knew now that both generations wanted the same thing. His blood, his life, his seed, and there was no escape from their prophecy. Asterisk, the prophecy revealed. The night stretched across the alien sky. 2 suns had set, leaving only the glow of strange plants to light the city. Eric sat inside a chamber of crystal, guarded by the younger aliens. His body shook with exhaustion, but his mind refused to rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of both tribes, young eyes filled with hope, old eyes filled with fire, and over it all, the voice of the planet echoed inside his skull. Balance must be kept. Younger aliens gathered around him. They did not speak with mouths, but their whispers filled his mind like a quiet storm. One stepped forward, her glow softer than the others. She bent down, her face close to his. "You must understand, human," she said. "You must hear the prophecy." Eric leaned back, shaking his head. "I don't care about prophecies," he whispered. "I just want to go home." The younger alien's eyes dimmed with sadness. "There is no home for you anymore," she said. "The world has chosen you." The chamber darkened, the walls shifting like liquid glass. Suddenly, visions bloomed across the crystal surfaces. Eric gasped as he saw images moving like shadow stories told without words. He saw the planet in its beginning, glowing with life. He saw the ancient ones rise first, strong and proud. They built cities of fire, conquered stars, ruled with power. But as centuries passed, their strength began to fade. Their bodies cracked, their fire dimmed. Extinction crept closer. Then he saw the birth of the younger ones, born from the same world, but brighter, faster. Filled with energy, they were hope, but their blood was incomplete. Unstable, without something more, they too would fall. Both generations faced the same end, and the planet wept for balance. Eric pressed his hands to his head, the visions burning into his skull. "What does this have to do with me?" he shouted. The answer came not from the young, not from the old, but from the planet itself. Its deep voice shook the chamber. "One will come from the stars, one not of this world. His blood will carry the spark. Through him, both generations will live." The younger alien touched his arm gently. "You are that one," she said, her voice trembling with both fear and awe. "The prophecy spoke of a human. It spoke of you." Eric's heart pounded. "No," he said, shaking his head. "I'm not chosen. I'm just unlucky. I crashed here, that's all. You've made a mistake." But the visions did not fade. The crystal walls showed his face again and again, standing between 2 tribes. His image burned into their prophecy long before his birth. The younger ones bowed before him. Their whispers filled the chamber. He is the carrier, the one of stars, the father of balance. Eric stumbled back, his hands shaking. Father? He said, his voice breaking. What do you mean, father? No one answered. The silence was worse than the whispers. The young only stared at him with glowing eyes, some filled with reverence, others with hunger. Eric felt a cold truth crawl through him. They did not just want his presence, they wanted his blood, his seed. He was not here to watch their survival. He was here to create it. The chamber trembled, the walls shifted again, showing new visions. Eric saw himself surrounded by children. Not human, not alien, but both. Their eyes glowed with light. Their bodies strong. The young bowed to them, the old worshipped them. These children were the bridge, the future of both tribes, and he was at the center. Eric collapsed to his knees, gasping. Tears filled his eyes though he tried to fight them. This is madness, he whispered. I never asked for this. I never wanted this. The younger alien knelt beside him. Her hand rested gently on his shoulder. No one asks for prophecy, she said softly, but it does not care. It only waits, and now it has found you. Eric closed his eyes, his mind spinning. He wanted to scream, to fight, to run, but the weight of destiny crushed him from every side. The prophecy had been written long before he was born, and whether he accepted it or not, the world itself would not let him escape. The chamber brightened once more. On the walls, the final words of the prophecy glowed in fire. One human, 2 generations, from him, the blood of stars will flow. Both tribes will be reborn, or both will be destroyed. The silence after those words was endless. Every eye fixed on Eric. The young waited. The old listened from the shadows. And Eric, broken and trembling, knew that his choices were no longer his own. The prophecy had revealed his fate, and it was a fate darker and heavier than he had ever imagined. The impossible truth. The chamber walls still glowed with the words of prophecy. Eric sat frozen, his body weak, his mind burning with denial. One human, 2 generations. The words repeated in his head, echoing like thunder. He wanted to believe it was all a dream, a cruel hallucination from lack of food and sleep. But the eyes of the younger alien staring at him with devotion told him it was real. Suddenly the air shifted. The temperature dropped as if the world itself held its breath. The ground beneath the crystal city trembled, not with violence but with rhythm, a pulse, slow and heavy, rising from the core of the planet. The younger ones fell silent, bowing their heads. Even they did not understand what was about to happen. From the shadows of the chamber, 2 figures appeared, one from the younger tribe, her glow bright and unbroken, her steps light as flame, the other from the ancients, her cracked body glowing with deep red fire, her presence heavy like stone. They walked forward together, side by side. All eyes followed them. Eric's breath caught in his throat. He felt something inside him twist, something unnatural, as if his body already knew the truth before his mind could face it. The younger queen lifted her hand, her eyes locked on him, shining with both awe and sorrow. Human, her voice whispered into his skull. The seed has already taken root. Eric staggered back, shaking his head. No, he said aloud, his voice cracking. No, that's not possible. I never. But the words died in his mouth as the older queen stepped forward, her cracked form radiating ancient fire. Her voice pressed into his mind like a mountain. It is done, human. You live within us now. Eric collapsed to the floor, clutching his head. Visions burst behind his eyes, moments he did not understand. Rituals in the night, when he was half-conscious, surrounded by light and whispers. Hands touching him, voices chanting, energy flowing through his body. He had thought they were dreams, hallucinations from exhaustion. But they had been real. The aliens had bound him without his knowledge. And now, both generations carried his blood. The chamber erupted with chaos. The younger aliens cried out with joy, their whispers overlapping. He's the father, the prophecy is fulfilled. The older ones roared, their deep voices shaking the spire. He belongs to us. His blood will restore our fire." The two sides clashed with their voices, their bodies glowing brighter and brighter. But Eric could not hear them. All he could hear was the sound of his own breathing, sharp and broken. And the echo of one word burning inside his skull: "Father." He pressed his hands against the glowing floor. His reflection stared back at him in broken pieces of crystal. He saw not himself, but 1,000 versions of him, each surrounded by alien children with glowing eyes, children who were his, yet not his, children who would carry his blood long after he was dust. "No," he whispered again, his voice trembling. "This can't be happening." But his body told him otherwise. He felt the strange pull between him and the two queens, an invisible tether tying him to their lives. Every heartbeat of theirs throbbed inside his chest. Every breath they took, he felt in his own lungs. They were bound to him, and he to them. The younger queen stepped closer, her eyes soft, almost human. "You will give us future," she whispered. "Through you, our kind will not fade." Older queen followed, her cracked form towering. "Through you, our fire will not die," she declared. Two voices, two generations, both claiming him, both carrying his impossible truth. Eric's vision blurred as tears filled his eyes. He wanted to scream, to fight, to run, but he was trapped in a destiny not his own. The prophecy had not asked his permission. It had already used him, already planted his blood inside two alien wombs. And now, the future of an entire world grew. Within them, the chamber dimmed, silence falling heavy once more. The younger aliens knelt in reverence. The older ones stood tall in defiance. Both sides waiting, both sides watching. Eric was no longer just a stranger who had crashed on their world. He was a living weapon, a prize that could decide the survival of one tribe and the death of the other. The planet's deep voice rumbled again, shaking the walls. "Balance must be kept," it said. But how could balance exist when two generations now carried his impossible truth? When two bloodlines depended on one man who wanted none of it? Eric raised his eyes, his voice trembling. "If this is prophecy," he whispered, "then prophecy is a curse." Asterisk the planet's secret. The chamber remained silent after Eric's words. The young whispered in awe. The old burned with rage. But deeper than their voices, deeper than the prophecy, another sound began to rise. It came not from any throat, not from the air, but from the ground itself, a pulse, heavy and ancient. Older than both tribes combined, the floor beneath Eric glowed brighter. Cracks of light spread across the crystal walls. The spire trembled as if the city itself was alive. And in that trembling, a voice thundered through every mind. "The human carries what I planted," it said. "The blood of stars is not his. Alone, it is mine." Eric gasped, pressing his hands against the floor. His chest burned, his veins felt like fire. He realized with horror that the tether he felt with the alien queens did not come from them. It came from the planet, the world. Itself had used him, every step he took. Every dream he thought was his. It was all guided by something beneath the soil. The young fell to their knees, whispering, the voice of origin. The old lowered their heads, not in worship, but in fear. Their glowing cracks dimmed, their fire trembling. They had heard this voice before, long ago, and it had broken them. The planet spoke again. "When I was young, my fire created them both. First the old, born of stone and flame, then the young, born of light and air. But they were never whole. Their bodies carried only fragments. So I waited, I watched the stars, and I chose." Eric's throat went dry. "You chose me," he whispered. The voice thundered. "Yes, human. You are not accident. You are design. When your vessel fell, it was not chance. It was my hand that pulled you. It was I who seeded my will into your blood." Eric shook his head violently. "No," he cried, his voice cracking. "I am not yours. I am not." But his body betrayed him. His chest glowed faintly. His veins lit like threads of fire under skin. The tether to the queens pulled tighter, and he realized the truth that froze him in place. He was not father by choice. He was Vessel by force, the younger queen stepped forward, her glow trembling. "You mean? The children are not only his," she whispered. "They are yours?" The voice rumbled, shaking the chamber. "They are mine, through him. I weave my balance. Through him, both generations will be bound. Through him, the war will end. All will burn." The younger aliens gasped, their hope twisting into dread. The older ones roared, their rage mixing with fear. For the first time, both sides looked not at each other, but at the ground beneath their feet, at the world that owned them all. Eric clutched his chest, his breath ragged. Visions flooded his mind again. Sharper than ever, he saw the unborn children, glowing inside alien wombs. He saw their tiny forms pulse with both human blood and alien light. But then he saw something worse. The children were connected not only to him, but to the heart of the planet itself. They were not just heirs, they were anchors, chains that tied him forever to this world. Eric screamed, falling to his knees. "No, I won't be part of this. I won't let you use me." The planet's voice rolled like thunder. "You have no choice, human. You are already mine. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, belongs to me." The spire walls shuddered, light bursting outward, outside. The sky split open with lightning that moved without clouds. The two suns flickered as if they, too, bowed to the planet's command. The city wailed with sound crystal towers vibrating like giant bells. Both young and old covered their heads. But Eric stood in the center, glowing, burning. The unwilling core of a prophecy bigger than tribes, bigger than himself. When the tremors faded, silence swallowed everything. The young stared at Eric with wide eyes, their faith shaken. The old glared at him with hatred, their pride broken. Neither side spoke, because now, they all knew the same truth. This was no war between generations. This was a game played by the world itself. And Eric was its pawn. The tether inside him pulled harder. He felt the unborn lives stir inside the queens, their glow responding to his own heartbeat. The realization left him shaking. He was not just father of blood. He was a bridge between planet and people. And that bridge could either hold or shatter. Eric raised his eyes, sweat pouring down his face. His voice cracked, but he forced the words out. "If this planet thinks it owns me," he whispered, "then it will learn I am not its slave." The chamber shook once more. The planet's voice rumbled low, almost amused. "Then prove it, human. Prove it to me, before your children are born." The final choice. The silence after the planet's voice was heavier than stone. The young stared at Eric with fear and hope. The old glared at him with hunger and rage. But for the first time, neither tribe moved. All waited, because the choice was no longer in their hands. It was his. Eric stood trembling, his chest still glowing faintly. The tether to the two queens burned inside him like chains of fire. Every heartbeat reminded him of the lives growing within them. Lives he had never chosen, but could no longer deny. The planet's words echoed in his mind. "Balance must be kept, through you or through your destruction." The younger queen stepped forward, her glow soft, her voice almost gentle. "Choose us, human. We are the new, we are hope. With your blood, we will rise into light." Her eyes shimmered, not only with desperation, but with something else, a flicker of longing. Almost human, almost love. The older queen stepped forward too, her cracked body burning brighter than before. "Choose us, human. We are the first. We are history. With your blood, we will reclaim the stars we once ruled." Her voice was iron, her presence unshakable, yet behind her fury hid fear. For she knew her generation was fading, and without him, they would crumble into dust. Eric's breath came sharp, his fists trembling. Both generations pulled at him with invisible force. One offered future, one offered past, but both wanted the same thing: his blood, his children, his life, and above them all, the planet waited, silent, patient, certain that no matter what he would belong. "No," Eric whispered, The word echoed across the chamber. Both tribes froze, their glowing eyes wide. "No," he repeated louder now. "I will not be your tool, not your weapon, not your curse." The ground trembled violently. The planet's voice thundered in fury. "You dare refuse me?" Crystal walls cracked. Lightning split the sky outside. The chamber shook as if it would collapse, but Eric did not fall. For the first time, he stood tall, his glow rising not from the planet, but from his own will. He raised his arms, shouting into the storm, "If you made me a vessel, then I will break your chains. If you planted your seed in my blood, then I will tear it free. I will not choose old or young. I will choose myself." The tether inside him tightened like a blade. The unborn lives pulsed in answer, but instead of pulling him down, they lifted him higher. For a moment he saw them, two children of impossible blood, one glowing with the fire of the ancients, one shining with the light of the young, and in their eyes he saw not the planet, not prophecy, but freedom. The chamber blazed with light as his defiance surged. The young cried out in disbelief. The old roared in anger. The planet screamed. A sound that shattered stone, but Eric did not bend. He poured his will into the tether, not cutting it, not surrendering, but reshaping it. The queens screamed, their bodies glowing brighter and brighter. The unborn lives stirred violently. The chamber walls fractured, glowing cracks spreading like rivers of fire. The world itself fought him. But Eric pushed harder. His voice thundered across the city. "I am not your slave, I am their father, and my children will not be weapons of your war. They will be bridges. Bridges of my choice." The glow inside him exploded outward. Light swallowed the chamber, flooding the city. For a heartbeat, every alien fell silent, every young, every old, even the planet itself stilled. The chains of prophecy cracked. Balance was no longer the planet's design. It was his. When the light faded, Eric fell to his knees, gasping. The tether remained, but it no longer burned like chains. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat of his own. The queen stood trembling, their eyes wide with awe. They were no longer just vessels of prophecy. They were mothers carrying something the planet had not planned. Something born of Eric's will, not the world's. The young whispered in fear, "What has he done?" The old hissed in anger, "He has broken the prophecy." But the planet's voice did not return. For the first time, the world itself was silent, as if even it could not see what future had just been written. Eric lifted his head, his voice hoarse but unshaken. "My choice is made," he whispered. "Not old, not young, not planet, only them." His eyes turned toward the queens, and through them, to the unborn lives that stirred with his heartbeat, his children, his impossible truth. Not weapons, not saviors, but bridges he would protect, no matter what war would come. And as the two tribes stared at him in shock, as the planet itself fell into silence, the story of one human on an alien world changed forever. Because in a universe built on destiny and prophecy, Captain Eric had done the unthinkable. He had chosen free will.